I'm a group product manager here. So I run a group of about 5 product managers that covers the product updates. So like how we introduce new functionality to you all, how you like learn about betas and new functionality being launched, sort of user setup and management tools, permissions, CRM configurations, data migrations, and what I'll call like multi-org management. I'm going to actually put this deck into the chat so you all can follow along if you would like. In this deck, you can find my LinkedIn and my email. And if there are interesting topics that you want to talk about more, feel free to reach out to me. I love talking with you all, learning from you, learning about your experience of using HubSpot. And what we're going to cover today is within the access management space, what we did in 2024, what we're planning in 2025, and how to connect with us. So as I said, I have a team of 5 product managers here, and we love talking to you all. So I'm going to try to make sure you know who to go to for sort of what information. I'll try to keep myself to about 7 minutes per section, 6 times 7, 42, and then, Q&A. So fuzzy math gets to us to about an hour there. But before we launch in, just want to make a note. It is not 9:18, so I have to update that. But these are, this presentation is going to contain forward-looking statements. And so anytime we're talking about roadmap, that is definitely subject to change. So just keep that in mind. Have to do my little legal piece here, the boring parts. But let's dive in. Anything I missed, Kyle, or are ready to go?
I think we're ready.
Sweet. All right, so I'm going to first start with the product updates area. And the product updates area is how you all get information on product changes and how you all access betas. As we've continued to grow at HubSpot, as we've continued to launch more functionality, what we continue to hear from customers is like, holy cow, we love how much you all are changing the product, but keeping up with all of the change is really difficult. And sometimes you all are launching things before my users are ready for it. So please help us sort of get ahead of that. Help us get into the betas, help us learn about the functionality so we can educate our team so we can make the best use of HubSpot. So that's sort of the problem we're trying to solve for you all in this space. And this last year, we've done a ton. So one of the first things we did, if you remember I think it was must have been a year and I guess this time last year, we had just a running update. It looked like sort of a news feed of the changes. And just for some information for you all, we are shipping about 1,000 updates per year. And so if you can imagine trying to digest just a news feed of 1,000 things, it was just chaotic. And we were like, okay, well, this isn't going to scale. And we need a way to better lay out that information so that you all can get to the updates that are the most sort of important and relevant for you. So we sort of redid that page, tried to play around with the information architecture, the information density, that way you all can really understand what's changing and upcoming with the product. As part of that, we started to introduce things like a new to you tab, scheduled for release. So when we're communicating out this change is going to go live on this date, that way you can know hey, this high impact change is going to happen on this date. I should read it so that I can inform my teammates about it. The other thing we started to play with was recommended updates, which is we're looking at your feature usage within your account and mapping feature usage into hey, these are things that you should pay attention to based on how you use HubSpot. So yeah, that's a little bit about what we did in the product updates area. And so kind of taking a look at that, I'll pop into it here. So you access this area from clicking in the top right of your nav here, going into product updates. And you can see this sort of new to you tab where you'll get the rundown of what you've missed since last time you came to this tab. This is not a heavily used testing environment by me, so I only have one recommended product update. But you should have quite a bit more because we're sort of looking at the features that you use within your account. And we're saying, hey, based on that feature usage, this is one that you should pay attention to. And then if you go to scheduled for release, you'll see either a calendar view or you can switch into list view and it will tell you, hey, these are the changes that are going live today, next day, whatever. And the idea is that you can sort of go in here and let's say you wanted to really pay attention to high impact changes so that you can not have your, let's say sales team. I feel like sales teams are always the ones that are most impacted by unaccounted for changes. You can go in here and say hey, this changed to the sales mobile experience. I really want to get my sales reps, enabled on this before it goes live. So yeah, this page has been going through a ton of updates in the last year, and we've invested a ton in just trying to make it so that you all are getting to the most critical information. That way you can sort of digest it, take advantage of it, get enrolled in betas, etc. So that is one I'll scan quickly. The other thing that we did within the rollout space is we introduced something called the slow rollout track, which is, we know some of you out there are, working with like big teams. I'm just going to continue to do sales teams, and I'm sorry for any salespeople on the call here. Sales teams tend to be a bit more sensitive to change, is what we found. And when you're like working with a sales team that is quite sensitive to that change, many customers want the max possible time to sort of react and prepare. And so we introduced this thing sort of like, hey, can you put us at the max possible end of like a rollout? So we often do like sort of continuous rollouts of a new change over like a multi-week period. So this is sort of like the slow rollout track. If you want to give yourself the max possible time to prepare for it, that is something that you can go into your account and update. I want to note that I believe that one is packaged into enterprise. So just flagging that for all of you who aren't on enterprise. The other thing we did, and I'll hop into the app and show you where you can configure this, is a product updates weekly digest where customers are like, hey, product updates page, love all the updates that you made, but like I can't within my workflow always remember to like navigate to that top level thing into the product updates. Can you like meet me where I am working in order to like get me this information? And so our first iteration of that was like just like a weekly digest of this. So if you want to get there, you can get there from, if you're in the product updates page, you can go to manage release settings. And within that, you'll see both the gradual releases, which I'm calling the slow rollout track, or the weekly updates. And so you can just go turn on the email notification or turn it off. So yep, those are some of the bigger sort of highlights within the product update space that we made. Changes that we're planning for 2025. We're planning on expanding communication channels. So as I sort of just mentioned, what we continue to hear is it's really hard to like navigate back to that page and keep up with the changes. So we want to continue to try to meet you all where you're working. And one of the most obvious ways to do that is giving some way of showing you in the tool that you're using that tool has a beta, that tool has a change coming up. Obviously, like the risk of that is just sort of like, you know, those tools, there's like wizard pop-ups and like buttons and dots everywhere. And you're like, oh, I just want to use the tool, like stop like interrupting me. So what's the way that we can like grab your attention, or you know where to look if you're curious if there's an update or a change coming? So sort of lightweight ways of grabbing attention when there's like an active beta or a change coming. That's what we're trying to think about there, and expanding the ways we like get this information to you all. Additionally, we're going to continue to try to push on how we curate the updates. I know I flexed, and thank you for like giving me a lightweight tease on flexing on the 1,000 updates. I bet that we're closer to the 1,400 to 1,500 updates next year, based at the pace at which we're moving. And so trying to continue to help you all focus on the most critical updates is one of the, I love that idea of interrupts, maybe just for super admins or some sort of setting there. Getting some way to like make it so that we're like curating based on other ways of cutting usage. Like right now we have like, we're cutting it with one slice of data, but there are other slices of data that we could cut it with. Another thing that's sort of like an idea is like you all are interacting a lot on like community pages and like leaving feedback through different channels. Is there a way that we can connect our feedback channels that we like take information from you all and then return that back to you when a change comes from it? So like, let's say you say, hey, this product functionality is missing, and a product manager like builds the tooling for it. Can we like connect the dots full circle there so we can like resurface it back in that product updates page and say, hey, here's this thing that you complained about and here's the update for it. So that sort of would be like a dream to be able to sort of go full circle with you. And the last one is like just more advanced notice. So that one continues to be one that we hear a lot, especially from like our upmarket admins, is like, how do we make it less disruptive? How do we get information more ahead of time? How can we continue to, especially for the high impact changes, just give you all more time to prepare is what that sort of translates back to. I'm going to say potentially a batch release process that gives you a little bit more consistency on when you need to prepare for changes. So like, maybe every 2 weeks on a Monday, or like, monthly, the first day of the month on a Monday, or like the first Monday of a month. That's sort of what we're thinking there. Again, like that one is definitely not finalized. And so this is where I'm going to introduce one of the people who works on my team. Her name is Amna. Amna has covered this space now for going on a year and a half. And definitely reach out to Amna if you have feedback, questions, thoughts. There's her email. Amna would also love to chat with any of you about this space. She's extremely passionate about it and has been doing some really good work over the last year and a half here. So reach out to Amna if you have anything on the rollouts tool, and any big questions that I should talk to now before jumping into user management. Let's see, we got Q&A.
It looks like the permissions changed on the file. So I was putting the links in the chat, but just heads up, Jake.
Oh, weird. I wonder why.
It has the internal tag on it, the label. Yep, there you go.
Wow. Okay. Let me try this again.
Well,
Boom.
you need more than HubSpot.
Oh, did I not do it?
There we go.
All right. We got there.
Now try it. Access management in action.
Seriously. All right. There's a presentation. All right, let's get into user management. I think we're at the 7-minute mark, so I got to keep flying here. So user management, there's sort of two parts here. It's one, like getting teammates in and activated on HubSpot. And then the second one is, you all are coming to us with like sort of opinionated organizational structures, and that those organizational structures impact a ton, right? Like, how do you permission these people? How do you want reporting to work? What sort of like record views should these people have? There's a ton in the sort of like organizational mapping and impact tool experience problem space that we've been unpacking and have a bunch more coming. So that's sort of user management and how like we think about it at the top level. When we started this year, one of the biggest issues that we were hitting is that like when you all had like employees that left a team for whatever reason, it's already a painful process, right? Like this person's gone, their work needs to be picked up by other people. And what we saw is that the deactivation experience was just totally broken. And so we set out to basically improve that. And so if you go into the product updates area, we are sad to see them go. We wanted to just make that total experience way, way better. And so right now, these are the sort of the 4 changes that we made. People were getting confused about like, what is the difference between deactivation and removal, and what's like the pace I should do those at. We're like, okay, deactivation is where you should start, because that's, if you deactivate a user, they don't have access to their account anymore, which is sort of the first step. But then the second step is like reassignment of assets, reassignment of things. And so like deactivation is first and then removal is second. So we were a bit more opinionated about ordering there to sort of improve the user experience. The other problem was that there was a bunch of tool experiences that were impacted by the fact that deactivated users would often have their seats unassigned to them, right? Because like you want to use this seat to another user. And so to fix that problem, we did something very obvious. Seats don't count on deactivated users towards your seat totals. Duh. Like, of course, we need to fix that. And then deactivated users continue to remain visible in our sales forecasting. That was like one of the big pain points we heard. And then just sort of a new UX in terms of helping you all like take care of the core tasks of like, hey, this sales rep left, the service rep left, they have these active deals, they have these active like tickets, like let's get those reassigned and make sure that the flywheel keeps going there. So just sort of demoing that. Within like sort of your user management page, if you go in here and you just go actions, deactivate user, really simple, one click and done. And on that page, you have immediate sort of calls to action on, bulk reassigning or viewing their active contacts, active deals, or whatever sort of assets and records are available to them. And then if you're someone that wants to go through to full removal, you just go actions and remove that user from their account. But that's sort of the new experience there. And we're trying to give you just a much more opinionated flow as you move through user deactivation. And if you need to get a view of all your deactivated users, you can just review those users right here, very easily, one click. And again, sort of like what we tried to do is then go and update a few of the tool experiences. So sales forecasts was the biggest one you all were telling us. So we made it so that sales forecasts still takes into account like active deals on deactivated users. Another sort of big update, and I'm not going to spend time demoing this one because it's massive, is that we've been slowly turning users into CRM objects. And we're doing that for a ton of different reasons. One is like operationalizing repetitive tasks, such as like onboarding or sending out reminders to users that they need to like reconnect their calendar. Also, there's a huge opportunity here about like reporting on users and just generally like how do you map your custom business logic into the CRM? Here's a really easy example. You are real estate and your users are real estate agents. So every time they send out communication, they need to include an MLS ID. There wasn't an easy way to have like a property that was MLS ID on a user and then have that included in every marketing email that's sent out or every type of email that's sent out. So there is custom user properties actually. So if you go into, I should show it really quick. So yeah, if you go into the users page and you go over to preferences, you can see custom user properties. I have one here probably called something silly. Yep, meow example property. But if you just go into your properties page, you can go to users and create custom user properties. And then you can continue to build like workflows and reports based on those as well. So We did a ton there this year on user objects. I think there's still a ton more we can do. We had a recent session from Chris Grant from BabbleQuest on the total opportunity of user objects. I linked that there. If this is something that like you've been thinking about or thinking about how to like extend your usage of the HubSpot sort of customer platform, check out that session because it will give you a little bit of inspiration about how to start using the user object. So yeah, that was a huge milestone for us that we hit about middle of the year, and there's still a ton of meat on the bone in my opinion there. Another sort of small win I'll mention, and this is probably only relevant to people in specific circumstances, but we continue to hear that during like rebrands and acquisitions, like changing user email domains is quite painful. Transparently, it's quite hard to do this change because if we allow a admin to just change a user's email domain, you can get into like sort of user account takeover. There's like security concerns is the best way to say it. But we recently shipped an update so that we can make it a little bit easier to manage a rebrand and like roll out like a new like domain change for the users on your HubSpot account. Some additional upcoming changes within this space. As I said, we continue to need to get better at supporting more complex team structures. We've done a ton within the CRM this year on supporting like multinational teams. So teams that operate across different time zones, different regions, different languages, different currencies. One of the problems that we still haven't addressed well yet is the time zone problem. What we know today is that time is inconsistently set up within the HubSpot account for users. Sometimes it's a global time, sometimes it's based on your device. And those different user experiences are quite confusing, and those different implementations are quite confusing, and that forces the end users, your flywheel teams, you all to just have to do a bunch of like mental calculus of like, what time am I sending this email at? I have no idea. Is this using the global time zone or a device time zone? And you all are just confused. And so we have a user-based time zone that we rolled out for working hour calculations as part of some Service Hub updates. And what we're trying to do now is take that user time zone and where possible, display user-based time. It's not possible to do everywhere because sometimes we're doing a lot of like heavy back-end calculations, and those have to be in sort of some global time. And so we're not able to do a user-based time. What we're trying to do is make it really clear what time that is being displayed in, and maybe even give some lightweight calculation of that. So we're trying to get it closer to sort of like how other apps update for you. For example, you're traveling and your device time zone updates, and then your Google Calendar just like auto updates. Like we're trying to get closer to that sort of experience within the HubSpot app. And the whole goal is supporting you all who have a large employee base working on a more global stage. The other one, and this one has been something I've been pushing on for a while, and I'm really excited for us getting to the point of where we can actually start delivering it, is how do we handle more complicated matrix organizations where users and teams aren't vertical. There was a bunch of decisions made about how HubSpot's users and permission structure works, that everything is very linear. You can sort of see it in like the way permissions are assigned to, and I'll get to an update there where it's like, these contacts, these things are owned by this user, and this user rolls into this team, and this team rolls into this higher. It's like very, very vertical. But in a lot of situations, like that's just not how it works. You have these like people and these teams who will cover different areas based on need. Have this like specialized sales team or the specialized support team, or one of the examples is you have a few members of your sales team who are specific to a market, but then helping you extend into another market. And so they're situationally working in two different teams, and you need all of your reporting, notification, and record view experiences to like take that into account. So users on multiple teams is something we've been hearing a lot, and we're starting to work towards actually fixing that problem. So I'm really excited to just start to build a bit more power into our tooling there to help better reflect your all's organizational structures in our tools. The other one is that we really care about getting your teammates in and activated and helping you have tooling that really facilitates that. And so what we do now is like sort of nothing. Like we just, hey, invite a user and like good luck. They're gonna get this like, generic email invite. You're gonna have to do like sort of manual onboarding. And so how can we like operationalize some of those tasks for you and maybe make it a bit more custom? So, customized user email invites, maybe sending invites through Slack. That is a typo there, apologies, but send an invite through Slack rather than through email, because we know that a lot of people are slow or miss, a lot of the sort of automated email stuff. We want to start showing like very actionable reports where We say, hey, you've had this set of users who haven't accepted their invite or who haven't gotten through the initial stages of onboarding. Like, would you like to take some action? We're trying to allow you all to do more upfront setup as well, and maybe even do like custom onboarding and task assignment. Like if the thing you want your reps to do is like log in, connect their calendar, connect their meeting link, start setting up their sequence, like how can we make it so that you can sort of customize the task list and onboarding like list and maybe make that role specific? That way you all can sort of get in, set that up, and then it just becomes adding the people, and you don't have to do these very like manual onboarding flows for your end users. And we really help you get your teammates activated and leveraging HubSpot in a very deep and meaningful way. So a lot going on there that I'm really excited about, and I hope you all are too. So Liz is the product manager who covers this area. This is Liz's email, and she would love to connect with you all about the user management and some of the updates that we have made and what we have coming in 2025. Reach out to Liz if anything there interests you. You have feedback, thoughts, want to share your perspective. Yeah, Liz would love to chat. I'm going to hop on to permissions now, and I'm just going to circle back on questions at the end just because I'm in a little bit of a groove. So permissions has been a space that we have done a ton on the last few years. We know that it's really like critical for a number of reasons, whether that's just keeping people isolated to like swim lanes, that way they're not like stepping on each other's toes, to like sometimes you have competitive situations or data privacy reasons, like you just want to be good citizens about how you like expose customer data, that you keep your teammates really isolated to the data and tools that they need access to do their jobs, and not more than that. So we have been adding a ton here. I think one of the biggest updates that I'll start with is sensitive data. If you haven't seen sensitive data, it's been a huge update around helping customers who operate in finance, insurance, healthcare. I'm actually going to remove the HIPAA thing because we have a beta going on for like highly sensitive data, and I'll demo that in a second, where you can start storing this data within HubSpot. So there's a marketing webpage and a knowledge base where you can read a little bit more about that. But if you actually want to go turn that on or start looking at it within your account, where you go is to the privacy and consent area. And then you'll see here sensitive data, and you can go in and configure the settings. So these are the settings that I have on and how that shows up. Here's just a quick example. If you wanted to go through and create a new property, I'll just go and create example, property, random group, field type, single line. And then you can see that you can turn this sensitive or this property into a sensitive data property or a highly sensitive data property. And you can do configurations that then change a lot of the experience of how that property information is captured, how it's stored, how it's then accessed by the users within your account. So if you operate in one of those industries or you have data that you want to like treat as more sensitive data, take a look at that knowledge base. It was one of our biggest updates this year. Really cool stuff that went on this year there for permissions. The other one was activity permissions. And for a long time, the way to read this one is, for a long time we operated with the point of view that if a person had access to a CRM record, they got access to all the data within that CRM record. In this case, like, let's say Kyle and I are two different people that have two different roles. Kyle's on, customer support, I'm on sales, and we're both accessing this contact record. The point of view has always been that like Kyle and I can see both pieces of all the information on that CRM record. The feedback that we continue to hear is like, situationally, no. Like, let's say I'm working on a renewal with that customer, and it contains some sort of sensitive information back and forth that we want to sort of restrict. It's important for Kyle not to be able to view that renewal conversation. And so restricting that communication is something that customers like sort of want to do. So we added a bunch here, and those can be seen and configured within the permission panel. And so I'll just sort of show where that is. So if I go to users and teams and I go in and I edit someone's permissions, actually this way. Oh, it's my deactivated user. I got to reactivate them. 1 second. All right, so I'm going to go to this person. I'm going to go edit permissions, and then you'll see these new ones here. So you can see CRM emails, view, edit, delete, meetings, calls, notes. These are all activity permissions launched this year that will impact the communication and data that's shown within the activity timeline if you're someone that needs to restrict that. The other big permission piece that we launched was the share CRM records. So as I mentioned before, when I was talking about more complicated matrix orgs, HubSpot sort of designed their permission system originally about this very vertical sort of like, sales rep gets assigned a contact, that contact belongs to them. Everyone on the team is only on that team. And then everything sort of like ladders up. It's not often how it works. There's different people with different roles who need access to the same set of CRM data. And so what we've done is broken our permission model and made it so that with this functionality, you can specify exactly which users and teams you want access to which CRM records. And it's called share CRM records, but really what we're doing is on a property on the record saying, give us the teams that you want access, give us the users that want access. And so it's sort of breaking the model of like ownership and access being combined and saying like, just tell us who you want access to these records and define it within these properties. And so you can see how you assign access very visually from, if you just go to a contacts page and you go, let's just select these like 5, 6 contacts and you go share. And then you can say, okay, these are the teams that I want access to it, or these are the users that I want access to it. Where this gets even more powerful is the fact that we can actually do this, not just from the place that I just showed, but from workflows or an API. Like that really allows you to be quite interesting, quite powerful with how you manage record access. So you could start to do things like, contact comes in from North America, share contact with North America sales team. And so you don't have to always flow through owners in order to get to access. And so that sort of changes what you can do in terms of managing record access within HubSpot CRM. And so we've seen a lot of things that were previously very hard become very easy with this update. So that was one of the big ones this year. That is also live. Those are sort of the 3 big ones within permissions. What we have coming on in 2025 is starting to look at additional actions with permissions. So we are going to introduce a create and merge action on contacts, companies, deals, tickets, and custom objects. And so it's splitting that action is today folded in with the edit action. But what we continue to hear is like, we need more granular actions. We need more granular permissions, where we should be in a beta, I believe, for create in Q1, maybe merge as well. But that one is one that I'm really excited for because it's just continued to be a hot button topic for admins. The other one, and this is a sort of call to action for anyone here who's sort of nerding out on permissions and has strong points of view, we're evaluating doing different or adopting new permission models. So this one is called conditional permissions, and it's a way to specify like when a user can get access to some piece of data. So you can imagine like you want, so an example I was using before, sales reps gets access to contacts when they meet the criteria of being in North America. Another way could be, we want sales reps to get this sales rep to get access to this CRM record when it's in North America and the deal is not closed, because we want to like stop editing on the deal after the deal is closed, and we want to turn it into like a view only status. So there's some really interesting things there that we could do with conditional CRM permissions that I think would unlock both a little bit more power and maybe a little bit more like ease of comprehension and setup in terms of how the permissions are configured. This one is like very much still an investigation. So if there's things that we talked about here that I mentioned that you're like, oh, that's really interesting, that could really help simplify or change how I'm doing permission configuration, take a look at that. This sort of ran out over here. We're doing a ton of internal platform changes to how permissions are done. So this is just sort of peek behind the curtain. We're trying to make it so that anytime new features are built, anytime new things are changed at HubSpot, they just start with a permission, and that permission checks are more consistently enforced across the platform. We make a pretty good effort at that, but there are just some like, again, trying to be as transparent with you all as possible. I love you all admins. There's some inconsistencies there. And so we're just trying to like bring a lot more power and consistency to how we do permissions on our platform. There's a ton of other small updates. I'll let you all read that in your time. Amanda is our PM over there. Definitely reach out to Amanda if you saw anything here. Amanda would love to chat. But yeah, we have a lot going on in permissions, a lot more to come. And with that, I'm going to hop over into CRM configuration. Within CRM configuration, this is all about how you all map your business into HubSpot CRM to like accelerate growth and success. And so an example would be, if you're trying to figure out like, are you taking the best advantage of HubSpot and all the objects and all the connections and all the properties, and you want like inspiration for how you can maybe think about changing your CRM like setup, we're introducing things like data templates. And so a data template would be like, I'm from real estate. This is the sort of objects I should be configuring. These are the associations they should have. These are the properties they should have. So you can access this area where you can see both the data templates in a new area as well called limit tracking from within data management. If you go into data model, you have this great data model overview tab where you can see what objects you have, the connections between them, how many records you have. You can open it up. And if you haven't used this, it's really, really cool. You can see the properties that you have on those. And so there's a ton of really interesting data in here on how your CRM is set up. And then if you want to look at the data model templates, they're right within here. So again, we're just trying to make it really straightforward, leverage the fact that we have so many customers and give those insights to you all. So you can see sort of recommendations on properties, recommendations on like, anything like that, associations, anything like that. So that's sort of what we're trying to do, is just be a little bit more opinionated, give you all a little bit more data about like CRM setup and management. And where we're ultimately building towards is creating a space for you all. Like right now, I don't know what to call it other than like this settings area can be hell. There's quite a lot going on. And so we are trying to figure out like, how do we surface the most critical tasks for you all to complete? And so right here, you're looking at this like sort of space where we want to bring you all and say like, this is what we're seeing in your CRM, right? Like these are the things that, these things these integrations, stop being connected. These users had their calendars disconnected. These properties are unused. You want to like delete those properties to take some CRM storage back. We're trying to help you all understand what's going on in your CRM and help you take action and streamline the most common tasks. And we're trying to do that in a very opinionated way. So how do we make the tasks really easy to accomplish that are the most common tasks? And how do we guide you to really clear insights and action? This is a newer space for us that we're just getting into. So if you're someone who's like, I am just trying to always like look at my CRM, understanding best practices, I'm trying to pay attention to CRM health, so I'm trying to learn like what are the best practices within the industry, reach out to Harker. Harker is definitely going to love talking to any one of you all about CRM configuration, what you all like want, what you all need. Harker would love to get some opinions on like the data that we're showing and get some insights there. So Harker, that's how you reach out to Harker. There's Harker's scheduler and email address there. So looks like I have got about 20 minutes. So I'm going to go through the last two here. The last two are multi-account management. And this one is for when customers require separate CRMs, separate HubSpot accounts, which is often because they have different lines of business and flywheel teams that dictate very separate processes. They want a high degree of separation. We have a lot of customers that have that today. I don't know if anyone is sort of fits into that bucket, but we want to make it easier for those customers that go down this path of configuring different HubSpot to make that really easy to sort of sync critical data back and forth to optimize core tasks. An example would be like, let's say you're a marketer that is rolling out a cross multi-business line campaign. How do you make it so that you can quickly copy all the forms and the emails and et cetera from that? So this is called cross-account asset copying, and you can access that from within settings in this multi-account area. And you can start to copy assets from one account to another to quickly sort of rebuild those different campaign assets. Another use case that we are solving for is, if you have complementary like brands, complementary product lines, and you've decided to go to this multi-account setup, oftentimes like sales reps like need to understand what's going on in that other brand. You understand what's going on in that other line of business because they're looking for this cross-sell opportunity. They need to know like what is the contact's purchase history, which reps are they interacting with in this other line of business. So what we're trying to do is figure out a way to contextually show that this contact belongs to this other line of business, and here's some critical information on them. So we're doing a little bit in multi-account now, and then next year we're doing a whole heck of a lot. And so if it's something that interests you, I'm not going to get into the roadmap because it's a bit more of a nuanced conversation, but go reach out to Mark Miller. Mark Miller is another person that works on my team, and Mark would love to chat about this multi-org, multi-account setup space. And then the last one I have here is, forgot to edit this, data migrations. So I think it was 2021 that we launched the EU data center. When we launched it, we have a ton of customers that are on our North America data center. We now have a 100% self-service tool that allows you to move your account from the US to the EU data center. So if you're a EU customer, your data's still in the US, we know that there's a bunch of data privacy reasons why you need that in the EU. Go check out this tool. It's entirely self-service. It's really easy. We run migrations on the weekends. We're trying to be minimally disruptive to your business. We continue to try to make it so that there aren't many post-migration steps. We've migrated now hundreds and hundreds of customers. And again, it's a fully self-service process. Yeah, I would definitely recommend here. I'll show you all where you go. So if you're in your account defaults area, if you go to the data hosting page, we have a bunch of like guidelines, impact to what features, what to do after the migration. And all you do is select the data center that you're migrating to, and then you can see the available dates. Unfortunately, you can't choose a specific time, but we're usually running migrations starting Friday night, like midnight EU time, and it will wrap up by Sunday. So hypothetically, the users that are within your account shouldn't be impacted. And if you go look at the impact to the tools, what you'll see is like, we're not really changing any of the external facing content. So your website pages, your forms, all of that stuff will continue to operate as normal through the migration. It's just access to your HubSpot account that becomes the piece that your like sales reps and your flywheel teams can't access. But again, we're trying to do that just over the weekend, and we'll continue to make that migration window shorter and shorter. I am the PM there. You have my email and meeting scheduler. So feel free to book with me, connect with me on LinkedIn. There's my email. That is my rapid run through of what access management, what we did in this space in 2024. It's at the end of the year, so I need to get my dates right. And then what we are planning for 2025. I'm going to just pause here and do the rest as questions.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was great. Lots of warm, friendly sentiments in the chat there. We're going to move over to Q&A now. So if you asked a question in the chat, or if you have a question you would like to ask and haven't put it in the Q&A yet, click that Q&A button at the bottom of the screen. Look through the 45 questions that are now in there. Upvote the ones you want. We will work most upvoted to least upvoted. We'll get as far as we can in the 14 minutes we have left. While they're doing that, Jake, I have a question. This is kind of nitty-gritty technical details, but when the share record functionality came about, the thing that was so remarkable to me about it is that it has a user field where you can multi-select users, and it has a teams field that is editable, which are two things we've never seen in HubSpot before, as far as I know. Is there any chance like custom properties could have these attributes in the future, or just the standard owner properties could?
So
I know the properties question, but
no, you're good. So I know that there is work to make the owners field multi-select, and I know that they're evaluating multi-select user and team owner custom fields as well.
Wow.
I don't know the status of that, Kyle. I think we should reach out to Rachel and get her latest there. So I think let's talk to Rachel. I don't want to answer that question and get over my skis here, but I've definitely heard it.
That's totally fine. It just architecturally, sharing records, I don't know, because it is a property, I was just amazed. I have no idea how you guys were able to do that. It felt like a miracle to me when I saw it. So
I'm glad it was helpful. Yeah.
All right. Well, heading over to the Q&A now. I'm going to sort it, as I said, most upvoted to least upvoted. I'll be sure to refresh it in between questions here. But up at the top with 15 upvotes, Christy asks, after user deactivation, it would be great to know what workflows are currently using their user ID, either for internal notifications or assignments, so it can be switched out to a new user. Not a question, really, but an insight.
The insight is super helpful. I'll make sure I pass it on to Liz. Yeah, I think we can continue to do more there on deactivated users. Yeah, I see the point, right? Because like if you've gone through the workflow and you've said, I want to fit Mrs. criteria, assign this user, or you're referencing a user in some sort of other automation, like sending out an automated email, you want to go and clean that all up. So totally understand the use case.
And especially if
I'll
people
make sure I
are
pass that on.
using workflows to share records. If that's just a user hard coded in there, that could be a hard thing to find and untangle.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Yeah. I think I've heard that one also for like the meeting, like active meeting scheduler. Like, are there active meeting links still floating around for this person?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that feedback.
Meredith, on access management note, when multiple managers need insight across teams, what is the workaround for a user only being a primary team member of one team? This is my biggest obstacle. The team setup is very siloed, which doesn't work for my small nonprofit.
Let me just read this question one more time.
Yeah.
Is it at the top?
If you sort it by most upvoted, it's at the top or near the top. Meredith McVadden, 11:15 a.m.
When multiple managers need insight across teams. And so I imagine, Meredith, that this is I can't quite go back and forth between the Q&A and Slack quickly. It sounds like this is an access question. How do I get these managers insight into those different teams? And I think that the best solution for that is probably the share record functionality that we were just talking about, where you can just say like, these people are managers and they need access to these records. And so you'd probably want to do that within like some sort of like automation or workflow. It's where my mind goes. I don't know what tier you're on, but the other thing that you could do is solved with like the organized teams, where you can have like different levels of teams, where you have like 2 teams underneath this other team that the manager is on. And the way it works is a parent team has access to everything the child teams do. And so if these 2 teams are underneath this parent team, then they'll get access. But that's an enterprise feature, so I don't know if that. Otherwise, the share functionality should.
Meredith added a little context in the chat. She said, beyond insight, I want managers to be included in workflows, routing, etc.
Yeah, okay. So then that, Meredith, is going to map to this problem that I was talking about here in terms of users on multiple teams. And so in this example, the manager is working across multiple teams. And so we want to be able to say like manager Jake is on team 1 and team 2 and gets full access to everything on that team. So if they work a deal for this team, that deal needs to roll up into that team. If they're on this team, they need to get notifications. If they're on that team, they need to be included in routing and assignment. So that is a great one, Meredith, to reach out to Liz on. But we are in the process of like kicking off work. In my opinion, again, this is peek behind the curtain in terms of like where my head's at. I don't like the main and extra team concept. And so I think I want to push us to the world of where if a user is on a team, they're on a team, right? And the only difference between main team and extra team is like the main team is like your default team. So if we need to like load a page or do some like first action, that's like your default team, because extra team only serves the purpose of granting additional data and starting to get like a little bit more in the weeds. And if you think about the connection of that to the share records functionality, we sort of made that functionality obsolete by allowing you to customize exactly which users and teams you can access records. And so over the long haul, I think what I want to move towards is like there's just one concept of like team and you get access to it, but then users need a default team so we know what like first experience to load. So that's my way too much answer for your question, Meredith, but that's how I'm thinking about it.
Great. Jesse asks, this may be a little off topic, but has there been any conversation about adding the ability to remove objects, features, etc. from the navigation? There are feature objects that we do not use, and having them visible to our portal users causes confusion. Yeah,
yes, 100%. We are actively looking at how we want to do that. Based on how permissions works and how the navigation is set up with permissions, it's unfortunately hard is going to be my answer. I hear the feedback, like, if Jake, the sales rep, I think we've talked about, like, I've sort of referenced this, like, we know that the sales reps, they would just like want to get in and start prospecting and like calling people, like doing this. And so like when they come in, especially when we launched this new navigation, it was like, holy heck, there's so much HubSpot. I just want them to be here within the prospecting workspace. I want them to have maybe a few things, like a few reports, their meeting schedule, a coaching play, and I just want to like take those like 6 things and make that their navigation and then sort of hide everything else. Agreed. I don't know when we're going to do something there, but it is a piece of feedback that I imagine we will action on within the next 6 to 12 months. Going to reference the disclaimer that I put at the beginning. You can't hold me to that, but I know it is a problem and I agree with it. And I hope that we do something in the near future.
Amazing.
So yes.
If I had to guess, I would say this is one of the top 5 random complaints people drop on me at inbound every year. They just grab me by the shoulder and they're like, Kyle, we need to turn off, tickets or whatever. And it's just like, I don't know what you want me to do about it. But
yeah. So that one is either me or you can reach out to Liz. If you're like, this one is if you're on this, you're like, I need this, like book some time with Liz, book some time with Amanda, get that feedback in. The way, I'm going to just sort of try to peek behind the curtain for how we at HubSpot, we are like very passionate about like your pain and trying to solve it. So when you get on the phone and you just like let our product managers know that like this is really impacting your experience, we take that energy and we literally pass it to our engineering teams and we're like, we need to solve this problem. So like getting on the phone, like raising it, like we're trying to just like listen and capture that pain and then pass it to our engineering team. So if you want to talk about that more, if you want to talk about the implementation, we've talked about a few different implementation methods, but yeah, feel free to reach out to me, feel free to reach out to Liz or Amanda on that one. But yeah, I totally hear it.
Amazing. We are coming up on time here. Some of these are just kind of quick bits of feedback. So Kim would like more granular view, edit, delete permissions for forms and workflows, things like that. Peter, this sort of echoes something you already said. He would like new features to have permissions upon launch. Sounds like that's a thing you're
Same Peter.
Thinking about. Peter. Maggie asks, this is not necessary. Well, this is a thing you could address, I guess. Is there any way or a plan to have a way to share a universal link to product updates? Example, all product updates are portal specific, and yet sometimes I want to share an update outside my org, like in the Sprocketeer community, and yet I can't because links are portal specific. Maggie, just a quick tip. If you remove your portal ID from the URL and add /l/ like a lowercase l right after app.hubspot.com. So you have an app.hubspot.com/l/ whatever the rest of the URL minus your portal ID is. That will be a universally shareable link for any page inside of HubSpot. But Jake, if you want to address sharing product updates specifically.
Yeah, I just gave you an example. One, I threw it in the chat. So like if I click on this link, which I just built there really quick, it will take you here. And then whatever user you send that to can just choose which account. I have way too many demo accounts. So I'm going to just click into this one and then it will load like that. So yeah, absolutely. That's a quick little HubSpot hack for you all.
Okay, 2 minutes to go. I think we have time for one more question. Pascal asks, is there a timeline available for field level permissions for lead properties? Currently, all properties are available for everyone to view and edit, which is an issue, especially in bigger orgs with lots of SDRs or BDRs.
No, but I know we need to add lead permissions. That was a conversation that Amanda and I were having with the leads team very recently. I don't know the status, but email Amanda and Amanda will get you the latest and be able to take your feedback very directly. So I know we're working on it. I don't know the status.
Great. Well, as I mentioned, we have a lot of questions in the Q&A. I'll export these out and share them with you, Jake, so you and your team can know what questions admins have. But thanks so much for being here. Really appreciate you going over so much stuff and giving so much access to PM admins. I hope you grab the deck and are going to take advantage of this, because this is a level of, I was going to say a level of access we've never had before. I don't know if that's a pun. It wasn't meant to be. But anyway.
I like it.
Jake, thanks so much for being here. Any last thoughts you wanted to share before we shut it down?
No, I mean, I love, like I said, you HubSpot admins are sort of what makes us work here at HubSpot. You all do all of the enablement of your flywheel teams, keep the HubSpot accounts running. So like I've shared, we want to connect with you. We want to learn from you. We want to understand your experience using HubSpot. So please don't hesitate to reach out. Yeah, I hope everyone enjoys the holiday season, and I appreciate you all having me on.
Yeah, amazing. Thanks so much for making the time, Jake, sorry, that was weird. And we'll see you all hopefully back next week. Have a great Tuesday.
Thanks, Jake. Bye, everybody.
Bye.